I remember the warmth in the room. The string lights above the patio hummed low, their glow bouncing off the champagne flutes and the polished surface of the buffet table. My daughter had helped me pick out the sunflower centerpiece, simple, bright, a touch of me. The whole setup looked like something out of a glossy magazine spread. But there was a tightness in my chest that had nothing to do with nerves. They were all here, my husband's side of the family mostly, my sister-in-law Monica, fake smiling while adjusting her perfectly curled bangs, the neighbors with their country club charm. My daughter flitted around, laughing, her napkin art, a hand-stitched cloth with my initials, tucked gently into my place setting. I saw her, my mother-in-law, June. Her hands moved through the air like she owned it, touching platters, correcting napkins, rearranging what didn't need rearranging. That old white ceramic bowl she brought every year sat on the stove. "The family heirloom," she said once, like it mattered more than any of us. I'd always hated that bowl. It smelled like thyme and beef stock, the kind of soup that makes you feel taken care of, if you don't know who made it. People smiled, but there was something off in their eyes. I could feel it the way you feel summer humidity before it rains, dense, breath-holding. June kept glancing at me like I was late for something, like my silence was inconvenient, like her moment was waiting. I'd known her for 17 years, and for 17 years, it had been this dance. Comments with edges too soft to confront, smiles that missed the eyes. I remembered the way she used to accidentally call me by her ex-daughter-in-law's name. At first, I thought she just forgot. Then it became a pattern. Then it became a weapon. Tonight wasn't different. She corrected the way I said bouillabaisse like she was teaching a child. Took the knife from my hand while I was carving roast, laughing as if I'd nearly ruined it, gave my slice to Monica instead. I heard someone say, "She's just like that. Don't take it personally." I did. But I smiled, because what else do you do when the house isn't yours, the guests aren't yours, and even the soup has someone else's name on it? "Madeline," she said sweetly, tilting her head. "Come here a sec, darling." She stood near the stove, holding the ladle like a scepter. "Try this for me. Just a little. Tell me if it needs more salt." The room went still in that strange way, where nothing's wrong but everyone senses something is. I stepped forward, careful, cautious, bent a little. She moved faster than I expected, one hand on the back of my head, the other tipping the bowl. The heat hit me first. Not just the soup, my face lit up, steam and sting together, but it was the silence that followed that seared deeper. No one screamed, no one moved. Just the quiet drip of broth from my chin, my blouse soaked, my breathing shallow. I didn't look up. I didn't give her the satisfaction. I stood, walked past the crowd, my steps slow, methodical, my heels echoing too loud on the tile floor. Into the guest bathroom. Locked the door. Sat on the edge of the tub. I didn't cry. Didn't even curse. I just sat there, soup cooling on my skin. The mirror told me I looked calm. But inside, there was this flood I couldn't hold back. From the hallway, I heard laughter, forks against plates, clinking glasses. Someone shouted, "Refill?" It was like I'd never existed. Like I hadn't just been assaulted. Like I was the inconvenience for walking away. And suddenly, I was 14 again. At my own birthday party, the one no one showed up for. Cake untouched, candles burning too long. I stared down at the embroidered napkin still clutched in my hand. My daughter's handwriting stitched in thread. "You're the heart of this family." Was I? I wiped my face with it gently. The soup stained the letters, but I didn't care. They taught me to be polite, to keep the peace, to smile through discomfort. But tonight, I learned something they never warned me about. Silence doesn't heal. Silence corrodes. Silence burns hotter than soup. I woke up on the couch, neck stiff and face still raw. The cushion smelled like gravy and sweat. I was still in the same blouse, now stiff from dried soup. For a moment, I thought maybe I'd imagined it. Maybe the whole thing was just a dream laced with embarrassment. The light creeping in through the blinds told me it was morning. I heard silverware clinking, someone laughing from the backyard. The scent of last night's roast lingered, mixed with the burnt edge of coffee. Marisol walked past me with a cereal bowl in her hand. She didn't even flinch when she saw me, just said, "Morning, Mom," like everything was fine. Quentin was already in the kitchen, sipping his coffee with both hands wrapped around the mug like he always did when he was trying not to talk. I waited. Nothing. No glance. No question. No, "Are you okay?" Instead, Lois appeared at the door, humming, holding that same white bowl. "We should make this soup every year," she said, smiling. It was a hit. I stood there, unmoving, watching her turn her back like the night before had been a skipped scene. Did no one see it? Did they all decide not to? At breakfast, I sat across from Quentin, waiting for the right moment. His fork tapped the plate rhythmically. I said it softly, just enough for him to hear. "What happened last night? That wasn't okay." He didn't even look up. "You know how she is. It wasn't personal." I stared at him. "She shoved my face into a bowl of soup, Quentin." He finally met my eyes. "Don't start something, Renee. Just let it go." Lois laughed lightly from the end of the table. "Oh, honey, if I touched you, I didn't even notice. You've been so sensitive lately. Maybe it just felt like something worse." She looked at me with those sugar-coated eyes, like she was being the bigger person. Monica smirked into her mimosa. Someone else cleared their throat and looked away. I felt my grip on reality slipping. "Am I crazy?" I whispered to myself. Quentin leaned in later, when we were clearing plates. "Don't ruin this weekend," he said. "We have family here. No drama." I wanted to scream, but I just nodded. Because what else do you do when the person you trust tells you not to trust yourself? I went upstairs to get dressed, looked in the mirror, still red around my jawline. Still no one cared. Marisol was lying on her bed, scrolling through her phone. I sat beside her. "Did you see what Grandma did?" She barely looked up. "She said you tripped." "I didn't trip." "She said you leaned in too far and lost balance. She even laughed about it." I stared at her, trying to read her face. She believed it, or wanted to. I felt like I was floating, not in some poetic way, more like I had no anchor anymore. Downstairs, the birthday was being recounted as a success. Lois told the neighbors it was the best one yet. Quentin laughed along like everything was smooth sailing. I stood there in the hallway, listening to them rewrite my reality. Every word erased another piece of what I knew happened. Back in the kitchen, I grabbed an old notebook from the drawer where I kept recipes, sat at the table and wrote it all down, every detail, every word, just so I'd have proof for myself. I almost called my best friend, but stopped. I knew what she'd say. Maybe it wasn't that bad. I didn't need more doubt. I had enough of that inside me already. I opened Marisol's phone. She had filmed some of the party. Not the soup moment, but there was footage of Lois calling me over, smirking. You could see the tension on my face, my hesitation, the tilt of her head. It wasn't proof, but it was something. I sat there, phone in hand, notebook open, soup still crusted in my hairline. And I knew this wasn't going to go away. No one was going to stand up for me, not Quentin, not even my daughter. If I wanted truth, if I wanted to feel sane again, I had to find it myself. I whispered it aloud, steady. No one else is coming. I have to do this on my own. It was just past midnight, and I couldn't sleep. The house was quiet, but my mind wasn't. I'd turned over in bed at least a dozen times before giving up and getting up. I walked barefoot through the dark hallways like I didn't belong there, like the walls knew something I didn't. The kitchen light above the sink hummed softly. The island was still cluttered with last night's aftermath. Plastic forks, stained napkins, bits of cake crusted onto paper plates, the same dried soup crusted along the stove. It hadn't been cleaned, just ignored. Like me. I was going to grab a glass of water when I saw it, the trash bag leaning open, bulging, half-tied. Something about the way it sat there stopped me. My fingers moved before my mind caught up. I tugged the edge of the bag open. At first, just scraps. Chicken bones, a birthday balloon half deflated, paper cups. Then, shoved between two greasy paper towels, I saw a folded napkin. Not just any napkin, the kind we only pull out for guests, white, with tiny stitched flowers. There was something written on it, I flattened it on the counter, hands shaking. It read, "Make sure she doesn't ruin the toast. If she resists, distract her. She needs to learn her place." Signed with one letter, Q. I stared at the handwriting. It was hers. Lois's loops, her sharp T's. No doubt in my mind. Q. Quentin. The back of my neck prickled. My hands went cold. It wasn't spontaneous. It wasn't heat of the moment. They planned it. They planned it. The toast. I remembered now how Lois had insisted I let her do the introduction. How Quentin had said, "Just enjoy the party, babe," as he steered me away from the microphone. How the whole family had turned to her like she was the matriarch of some empire. I whispered the words out loud. They set me up. The note shook in my hands. I folded it, slipped it into the waistband of my pajama pants, and walked upstairs without turning off the kitchen light. I didn't sleep. At dawn, I hid the napkin under my mattress, behind the baseboard near the headboard. My heart pounded like I'd just buried a body. I sat at the edge of the bed and replayed everything Quentin said yesterday. Don't start drama. Was that a warning? A reminder? A command? My mind rewound, searching every scene in our marriage. Every time he told me to calm down, to be reasonable, to trust his mother's intentions. Every time he made me feel small with a smile. How long had they been aligned against me? I opened my notebook and started listing details, dates, events. Lois's involvement in things that didn't make sense at the time, pushing Marisol toward private school against my wishes, inviting her old church friend to my book club, correcting my pronunciation in front of strangers. It was all starting to map itself out. Not random. Not clumsy, coordinated. This wasn't just about hurt feelings. This was manipulation. I slid my phone off the nightstand and downloaded a voice recording app, left it running in the kitchen later that day, just in case. Then I pulled out the old birthday cards Lois had sent me over the years, snapped photos of her handwriting. I wanted comparisons. I wanted undeniable proof. In the bathroom, I stared at my reflection. This isn't about soup anymore, I muttered. This is war. That afternoon, while Lois and Quentin were in the backyard playing lawn games like nothing was broken, I drove to my friend Talia's salon. I hugged her, said I needed to leave some files with her, just in case. She didn't ask questions. That's why I trusted her. That evening, I sat alone in my room, looking at the ceiling. It wasn't just that they'd betrayed me, it was that they'd organized it. The afternoon light was soft through the kitchen window when I returned home. I'd been out running errands, picking up new groceries, returning a dress I never wore. And in the car I kept replaying the note, the trash, Lois's smile. My heart felt heavy, like I was carrying a secret no one wanted to admit. Quentin sat at the table reading the newspaper. Marisol was at her homework desk, pencil scratching quietly. Lois was in the kitchen, kneading dough for bread that smelled of butter and salt. The house had that familiar calm, too calm. I asked, casually, "What about my toast, the one I prepared last night?" Lois looked over her shoulder, wiped flour off her hands, said, "Oh, that toast. Lovely idea." No warmth, no gratitude in her words. Quentin nodded once. Yes, it was nice. I forced a smile, swallowed the bitterness, because politeness was supposed to smooth edges, but I felt every rough corner. Later, I started rehearsing the toast in my mind. In front of the mirror, I spoke the words I hoped would bridge us, not burn us. I practiced. I recorded a voice memo on my phone, whispering those lines. I appreciate everyone's kindness, and I wanted to share how grateful I am. I used a quote I've always kept tucked away. Truth is like a lion, you don't have to defend it. Let it loose, it will defend itself. Lois must have noticed. When I passed by the kitchen sink, she gave me that sideways glance. Her jaw tightened. A warning, maybe. Evening came, and I asked Quentin to help me set up for a small gathering in the living room. Candles, dim lights, quiet music. Marisol helped me adjust napkins. I stood with my card in my hand, heart pounding under sleeves and soft linen. I saw Lois nod as I was about to speak. Her posture asked for control. I took a breath, opened my mouth, but she stood abruptly, said she needed to check on someone at the back gate, voice airy, leaving me exposed to the silence. Quentin didn't stand. No one asked what was wrong. Everything paused, the air thickened. I stood alone under soft lamps, candles' flame flickering, my throat dry, my pulse loud in my ears. I remembered the camera in the kitchen, quietly recording when Lois moved things. I had turned it on just to capture dishes, but now, maybe it captured more. I cleared my throat. I read my toast out loud anyway, even if no one heard. Even if they pretended. "To being seen," I said. The words hung in the room. I left without applause, clutching that crumpled note I had hidden, proof that I saw through it all. Later, in the bedroom, I confronted Quentin. "Why did you let her walk away before I spoke?" He stuttered. "I thought..." "Thought what? That it was better to let her dominate?" I held the note up. His face fell. Lois hurried in, said something like, misread, that maybe I was overly sensitive. She stood there, lips pressed, eyes sharp. I said, quietly but firm, "I didn't ask for kindness. I asked for respect." No one interrupted after that. It was the loudest moment so far, though barely a shout was made. That morning, I woke up knowing what I had to do. I didn't scream, didn't slam doors. I folded the laundry, wiped down counters, packed Marisol's lunch. I smiled at Lois when she talked about how families should stick together, no matter what. I nodded. I even helped her set out placemats. Quentin barely looked at me. When he did, it was that polite glance you give a stranger who's staying at your house too long. He made himself useful, cut the grass, restocked the fridge, asked Marisol about her school project like a man rehearsing fatherhood. But I saw it. The distance. The way he acted like nothing was wrong. I kept rereading that note in my journal. She needs to learn her place. Every time I looked at those words, something inside me cracked, but not from sadness anymore. It was like pressure building behind a dam, quiet, steady, unshakable. I reviewed the camera footage again. Watched the little flickers in Lois's face, the smirk she wore when no one was watching. I wasn't imagining it. I knew what I saw. And that night, I wouldn't read a toast. I'd draw a line. After dinner, I offered something simple. "It's such a nice evening. Why don't we sit out back for a while?" I smiled. Soft, inviting, no suspicion. Lois was pleased. She even helped carry out the tray of lemonade and cookies. Family slowly trickled outside, finding seats under the patio lights. The air smelled like grass and cinnamon. Kids ran barefoot on the lawn. Grown-ups sipped lemonade. I looked around and felt like I was watching a stage play. All of it so rehearsed, so practiced. And then, I caught Lois's eye. "Can I say something real quick?" I said, loud enough. Conversations tapered off. Quentin cleared his throat and scratched his neck. Lois smiled. Too big. She thought I was going to thank her again. Maybe offer another kind toast. I didn't. "I've been thinking a lot lately," I began, "about how misunderstandings grow in silence, and how we get trained to stay silent because we're afraid of upsetting the peace." Some folks nodded politely. Others just blinked. "I'm not naming names," I said, "because this isn't about revenge. It's about recognition. Sometimes people write things they hope no one will ever read." Lois let out a small chuckle. "Oh, Renee, are we doing poetry now?" I lifted my hand. "I'd like to finish." She froze. "I'm not accusing. I'm just stating where I stand. From today forward, respect in this family will be mutual, or it won't exist at all. No more veiled jabs, no more private whispers. You want to say something? Say it to my face." Quentin tried to step in with a chuckle. "Come on, honey. This is starting to sound like Judge Judy." Before he could finish, Marisol stepped up, calm but clear. "Mom's talking. Let her speak." That shut him down. I stood there a moment longer, letting the silence settle like dust. Then I sat down, poured myself a glass of lemonade, and took a sip. Lois stood up not long after, muttered something about needing to check on the bread in the oven. She never came back out. A couple of cousins came over later, said they admired how I stood up without making a mess. One aunt patted my hand. Took guts, Renee. Quentin said nothing. Later in the bedroom, he finally spoke. You didn't have to humiliate her. I turned to him. I didn't humiliate her. I just refused to stay small. He didn't respond. That night, I found a note on my pillow from Marisol. It was folded twice, written in purple gel pen. I saw everything. You were amazing. I sat on the edge of the bed and cried. But this time, it wasn't grief. It was freedom. I opened my journal. Wrote, line drawn. Next step, strategy. Then I booted up my old laptop and began saving files. Audio clips, video backups, timelines. I uploaded everything to a cloud drive, labeled folders with dates. I created a backup and hid it at a friend's salon across town. I scheduled an anonymous consult on a lawyer's website. I wasn't angry. I wasn't scared. I was ready. The woman who used to whisper just to keep things calm, she's gone. The one who speaks for herself just moved in. There's something about silence after a storm. Not peace, just that eerie quiet where everything feels too still, like the air's holding its breath. That's what the house felt like. I poured myself a coffee and sat at the kitchen table, staring down a pile of folders I hadn't touched in years. Contracts, receipts, emails I printed for just in case. Today was just in case. I thumbed through old project invoices, the ones I'd written, sent, followed up on. My name was there, typed cleanly at the top. But when the checks came in, somehow they'd been deposited into accounts I didn't control. It started small, an LLC agreement with my signature at the bottom. Only, it wasn't mine. Not that day, not that time. My signature was cut and pasted from another doc. Same slope, same ink spot. I remembered Lois once saying, "Don't worry, I streamlined the paperwork. It's all under control." And I believed her, because back then, I thought family meant trust. Quentin had smiled, hand on my back, saying, "Lois handles the admin stuff better than anyone. You just focus on your magic." My magic. Turned out, they were pocketing the applause while I paid for the stage lights. That afternoon, when Lois left for an appointment and Quentin was outside washing the car, I slipped into her home office. I told myself I was just checking on a file I'd helped draft last year. What I found was a drawer full of revised documents. Every one of them had my input removed or rewritten as if Lois had created the entire thing. One folder had a sticky note on it that read, Q, final copy, no mention of R. I scanned it, copied it to a thumb drive, and slipped it into my back pocket. I wasn't just angry, I was awake. Later, I met with Dahlia at a cafe. She leaned over, whispering, "I remember Lois saying you were just the face at that charity event, like the decoration." I wrote that down too, word for word. By evening, I was emotionally wrung out but clear-eyed. I sat down at the kitchen table. Quentin was checking emails. I slid a folder across the surface. "What's this?" he asked. "Proof," I said, "of what's mine, of what I helped build, of what she's been stealing credit for." He skimmed the top page. "Babe, I think you're reading into this too much. It was just for presentation. Lois was just to make her look good?" I interrupted. He looked up, caught off guard. "That's what you said last time," I said. "But this isn't about appearances anymore." He didn't answer, but I saw it, how his hand shook just slightly when he picked up his glass. Later that night, I sat alone in my bedroom and drafted a letter. Not a scream, not a threat, just facts, timelines, signatures, withdrawals, claimed credit, family manipulations. I didn't send it yet, but I did text Quentin. "I'm not asking anymore, I'm documenting." The tone shifted the next morning. Lois didn't greet me with pancakes. She barely looked up from her coffee. She knew. That evening, we attended a family dinner. One of those drawn-out backyard get-togethers where kids run around and someone always burns the burgers. Lois stood to give a little speech about family excellence and shared values. She made sure to say, "Thanks to Renee's help on last month's event." Help. Not leadership, not planning, not vision, just help. I clapped like everyone else, smiled like I didn't want to throw the lemonade across the lawn. But inside, it was boiling. After we got home, I locked myself in the study, spent hours uploading everything to a cloud folder, every file, every scanned doc, every video snippet. I gave it a name no one would ever guess. Then I handed a backup to Janie. She didn't ask questions, just hugged me tight and said, "About time." Before bed, I flipped open my journal, wrote, "If the truth kills me, I'll still let it die. But I won't let them bury me with it." I wasn't waiting for fairness anymore. I was preparing for war. I opened my phone to check the family group chat. Lois had posted the party photos, all the usual smiling faces, a few winks, some hearts. But I wasn't there. Or, in the blurry images, you could barely see me, cropped, faded into the background. Marisol was beside me on the couch. "Mom," she said quietly, holding the phone, "why does Grandma always blur you in pictures?" Her voice trembled more than the screen. I swallowed. Anger flared, hot and sharp. I had let it slide before. Tonight, I wouldn't. That night, guests gathered in the backyard, string lights, laughter, wine glasses catching the last light of the sunset. Lois stood up to thank everyone for coming. She said I had helped with everything, organizing, decorating, but never what I really did. No mention of contracts, no mention of hours I spent behind scenes. I stood, breath caught in my chest. "Thank you, Lois," I said, voice louder than I intended. They all turned. Some faces hardened. I spoke again. "Actually, I did more than help. I asked for menus, scheduled vendors, paid deposits. I did that." Lois blinked. The smile slipped. Guests looked to one another, whispering. Then Dahlia stepped forward. She had been quiet all evening. She said, "I saw something else. She wasn't just helping, she was making it happen." That voice, it cracked something open. Lois tried to laugh it off, said, "Oh, come on, I think you're being dramatic." But the words hung in the air. Quentin stood beside me. He looked uncomfortable, avoided my eyes. There was a long silence. Then someone said, "Thank you, Renee." Another nodded. At home later, my phone buzzed. Messages from friends saying they saw the post. Someone said, "You deserve to be seen." Then came the texts from family. "Why did you have to say that in front of people?" "You made a scene." "You embarrassed Lois." My stomach twisted. But something inside me shifted. I saw Lois then, in the kitchen, lights dimmed, shoulders slumped. Pontiac? No, pride broken. I pulled up my photos, ones Lois had posted, showing me in center, me speaking, me helping. Cut, so you saw nothing but hands. The caption had said, "Loved everyone's effort this weekend." A cousin replied, "Where's Renee in this picture?" I looked at Quentin. He met my eyes, said nothing. I reached my hand into my nightstand drawer, pulled out my phone, heart sharpened. I drafted a group text to family. 2 screenshots, the posted photo, the one Lois had edited, to show what she chose to hide. I pressed send. I didn't expect apologies. I expected acknowledgement. I stood in my room, the ceiling quiet above me. Power isn't given, it's taken. I was ready. I stood in front of the mirror, adjusting the necklace Marisol had given me 2 birthdays ago. My hands trembled, but my mind was clear. That night wasn't about vengeance. It was about reclaiming something I had let slip too long, my name. The banquet hall buzzed downstairs, family arriving, voices blending like old church hymns. When I stepped into the room, the hush was subtle. Polite nods, half smiles, but I could feel it, questions hanging in the air. Someone muttered something about rumors. Lois walked in soon after, dressed sharp. She nodded at me, not a word. Quentin a few steps behind her, looking like a man walking into court, not dinner. Marisol grabbed my hand. "I'm proud of you, Mom," she whispered. I nodded, but couldn't speak. The lights dimmed. Dinner was served. That hush, it returned. I've built this moment piece by piece, I thought. Every ignored voice, every hidden note brought me here. Later, during dessert, I tapped my glass. All eyes turned. Behind me, a projector screen flickered to life. My assistant gave me a tiny nod. The clip began. Lois's voice. Unfiltered. We just keep Renee quiet until after the sale. She doesn't need to know how things are split. Another cut. Her speaking to Quentin, laughing. She won't even know she's been cut out until it's signed. And then the photo. Original, unedited, me-centered. Marisol beside me. Next, the edited version Lois had posted. I wasn't even in it. Gasps. Whispers. Someone dropped a fork. I stepped forward. My voice shook, but I let it. This is what true silence looks like, I said. Not peace, erasure. Quentin started to rise. Renee, let's not. I turned to him. These are my words back, and I won't let them be twisted again. The room burst into chatter. Some guests murmured support, others looked away. Aunt Mary leaned to whisper. I saw that photo removed. I didn't say anything. Cousin Tina spoke louder. Why didn't you tell us before? Lois stood. This is taken out of context. It's edited. I faced her. How many lies did it take to make me question what I knew I saw, what I lived? Quentin threw up his hands. You've made this too big, Renee. I didn't respond. I didn't have to. Marisol crossed the room and wrapped her arms around me. I believe you, she said. That did more than any applause ever could. I opened my purse and pulled out a white envelope. Walked up to the podium. This, I said, is the last check you'll ever cash in my name. Inside were copies, legal contracts, metadata, business transfers, screenshots of the video upload. The envelope bore Lois's name, but was marked for the whole family. Lois's face drained of color. She sat down slowly. Quentin wouldn't meet my eyes. The air in the room had changed. Some guests slipped out quietly. Others stayed, came up one by one to shake my hand. No cheers, just acknowledgement. Later that night, I stepped out onto the back patio. The stars were hidden behind city glow, but the quiet wrapped around me like an old sweater. Marisol joined me, her presence warm and steady. You did it, she said softly. I smiled without answering. The wind stirred the hem of my dress. My chest didn't feel heavy anymore. I didn't just fight for recognition, I thought. I fought for truth. My daughter saw me. I knew there would still be mornings where I'd wake up remembering the soup burn. But tonight, I slept in the scent of victory. The morning light slid through the blinds in soft slants, resting gently on my face as I opened my eyes. No tears, no tight chest, just the kind of silence that doesn't ache anymore, the kind that lets you breathe. I swung my legs over the bed and sat for a moment. The envelope from the night before still sat on the hallway table. I didn't touch it. I didn't need to. Its job was done. My phone buzzed. A message lit the screen. You were brave. Thank you. It was from Elaine, my cousin on my dad's side, the one who hadn't spoken to me in over a year. I didn't reply right away. I just let it sit there, like a flower in a vase someone finally noticed. The TV in the background was muted, flashing the usual breakfast show faces. A small scroll at the bottom mentioned something vague. Family drama sparks internet conversation. That was enough. Enough to know it echoed. Not everything that breaks is broken forever, I thought. By mid-morning, Quentin showed up. I saw his car pull in slow, parked crooked. He knocked once and let himself in, like old times, but this time, I didn't meet him halfway. I stayed seated on the couch, let the silence set the tone. He sat across from me, hands clenched, elbows on knees, eyes darting everywhere but mine. I didn't know how to stop her, he said. She made me feel like, if I didn't play along, I'd lose everything. I nodded, calm. But you weren't the one she hurt most. I was. He swallowed hard. No defense. Just truth, sitting heavy between us. We talked about Marisol, what she'd seen, what she needed now. He asked if he could still be part of her life. I told him yes, but with terms. You can be her father, I said. But I won't be your shield again. You handle your own storms from now on. He cried a little. Not loud, just sat there, wiping at his face like a man who finally understood the cost of looking away for too long. That afternoon, I drove across town to a counselor I hadn't seen in years. The waiting room still smelled like lavender oil and cheap carpet. When I sat across from her, she looked at me like she remembered everything, but didn't need me to say a word until I was ready. I kept quiet so long, I told her. Not just about the soup, but about all of it. The birthdays, the accidents, the moments I was rewritten. She nodded slowly. Why do you think the soup was the moment that broke you? Because it boiled everything over, I said. We laughed, soft and sad at once, talked about Marisol, her need for stability, not perfection. The therapist suggested journaling again, volunteering, teaching. I half joked that I might be done with birthday parties for good. I got home before sundown. The air inside the house was still, gentle. On the fridge, Marisol had left a drawing. 3 figures. Me, her, and a small cracked bowl with flowers growing out of it. I stood still, one hand to my mouth. Not crying, just stunned. You saw more than I ever said, I whispered. And you loved me anyway. I pulled the drawing down and framed it right then, put it on my nightstand. That's what healing looked like. Not forgetting, just remembering differently. Later that night, I sat down and opened a blank blog page, typed slowly. No edits, no rehearsals. To every woman who's ever been told to smile and swallow, this is me saying no more. They called it soup. I call it a line drawn in heat. What scalds can also soften. If you survive, it doesn't make you weak. It means you made it through fire. I hit publish. Then I turned on the camera. Hi, I said, staring into the lens. My name is Renee, and for a long time, I let people take my name and twist it. But tonight, I'm here to take it back. I don't need you to agree with me. I don't need your permission. I just need to tell the truth, out loud. I ended with a quote I always kept taped in the back of my journal. I can be changed by what happens to me, but I refuse to be reduced by it. Maya Angelou. Then I smiled, not a forced one, not a camera smile, a real one. The kind you save for when no one's watching.